Dylan Wang shocks fans by calling ShenYue his future bride. The studio hallway was still quiet when the words left Dylan Wang's mouth. Words so reckless, so loaded, so unexpected that for a moment even the cameras seemed to stop rolling. Crew members froze. Assistants exchanged uncertain glances. And ShenYue, standing just a few steps behind him, felt her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and panic. It was during a live fan interaction event that had already been tense because of the growing rivalry between the three, Dylan, ShenYue, and MilesWei. The audience had been watching closely, whispering about the awkward atmosphere, the sidelong glances, the clipped answers. No one predicted the moment that would explode into the biggest headline of the year. When the host casually asked Dylan what kind of woman he imagined himself marrying in the future, he did not flirt. He did not joke. He did not dodge. He turned his head, looked directly at ShenYue standing off stage, and said the four words that detonated the internet. Someone like ShenYue. The host laughed, not realizing what was coming. But Dylan was not smiling. His jaw was set, his voice steady, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that felt far too real for any script. Then came the part that shook the entire industry. "She is my future bride," Dylan continued. "I will say it openly. I am serious." Gasps erupted from every corner of the studio. The live comment shot upward so fast the platform nearly crashed. Fans screamed. Staff tried to hide their faces. One makeup artist dropped her powder brush. ShenYue's hands trembled. Her eyes widened. There was no way to pretend she had not heard him. No way to walk away without addressing it somehow. Dylan had thrown her into the center of a storm so fierce that even she did not know how to survive it. But the most haunting reaction did not come from the fans or the staff. It came from MilesWei. Miles, who had been preparing for his own segment backstage, stepped out just in time to hear those words echo through the hall. He stopped mid-stride, frozen as if someone had struck him in the chest. Crew members later said they saw the exact moment his expression changed, from confusion to disbelief to something darker, something almost painful. Someone whispered his name, trying to pull him back, but Miles did not move. His eyes stayed locked on Dylan, then on ShenYue, as if he were watching a reality he desperately wished he could deny. ShenYue tried to steady herself and forced a small, shaky laugh. "Dylan, stop joking," she said softly, hoping he would laugh it off. But Dylan did not. "I am not joking," he said, stepping closer. "I have known what I wanted for a long time." In that instant, the room felt divided. One half held their breath. The other half waited for Miles to react. He had been through too much for this to be just another dramatic twist. He had fought for her, protected her, carried her through danger, collapse, stalkers, and near-fatal scares. Their story had threads that only they understood. Yet now Dylan had drawn a line across the floor, a challenge, a declaration, a bomb thrown straight into the heart of MilesWei. ShenYue's knees weakened as she watched the tension flicker in Miles' eyes. She could not let this escalate again. Not after the fights. Not after the police involvement. Not after every dangerous moment that nearly tore them apart. "Please," she whispered to Dylan when the cameras shifted away for a moment. "Not like this. Not here." Dylan's expression softened only for her. He lowered his voice, but his conviction did not waver. "If you think I am afraid of the consequences," he murmured, "you do not know how far I am willing to go." ShenYue stepped away from him, terrified of what Miles must be feeling, terrified of the storm that was already forming between the two men who had repeatedly risked everything for her. Backstage, Miles finally moved, pushing past two staff members. His steps were steady, but his eyes held the kind of fire that could shatter a room. The host noticed the tension, tried to lighten the atmosphere, but the damage was already done. The romantic rumor wars, the rivalry arcs, the silent resentments, all of it collided in a single moment. The moment Dylan publicly claimed her as if it were already decided. But the next scene made everything even more explosive. When Dylan finished his segment, he walked off stage with confidence, expecting ShenYue to confront him. Instead, he found Miles waiting for him in the dimly lit hallway. Crew members tried to pretend they were not watching, but no one dared move. Miles did not shout. He did not swing. He did not even raise his voice. Instead, he said something that stunned everyone who overheard. "You do not get to decide her future." Dylan stepped closer. "And you do." The silence felt like a fuse burning slowly toward an explosion. ShenYue rushed between them, panic tightening her chest. The last thing she needed was another incident spiraling out of control. "Stop. Both of you," she pleaded, placing her hands on Miles' arm, trying to ground him. "This is not the place." Miles's eyes flickered with pain at her touch, but he stayed still. Dylan looked at her, not Miles, when he replied. "I will not pretend anymore," he said. "I lost you once because I stayed quiet. I will not lose you again." ShenYue's breath caught. Miles shut his eyes as if the words physically hurt him. Someone from production finally intervened, pulling them apart before the tension ignited into another physical fight. But the damage, once again, was done. News outlets erupted within minutes. Fans split into camps. And ShenYue, caught in the middle, felt as if the world was closing in on her chest. For the rest of the day, she avoided eye contact. She avoided hallways. She avoided the two men whose lives had become intertwined with hers in ways she never expected. But that night, when she reached her apartment and closed the door behind her, she finally allowed the truth to hit her all at once. Dylan's confession was not just dramatic. It was dangerous. It reopened wounds she had barely begun to process. It reignited the rivalry she had fought for months to calm. It created a new storm even worse than the last. And it forced her to face the single question she had been running from for weeks. Who held her heart now? Her hands shook as she sank onto the couch. Every memory flashed through her mind. Miles carrying her out of danger, Dylan shielding her from harm, the rooftop, the hospital, the fights, the secret recordings, the intruders, the stalking, the chaos. And now, a proposal disguised as a confession. The night stretched long and silent until she whispered into the empty room. "I am not ready for any of this." But the world would not wait. Tomorrow, she would face both men again. And the next chapter would begin, whether she wanted it or not. The moment Dylan Wang's voice echoed across the room, calling ShenYue his future bride, the studio froze like someone had ripped the atmosphere open. Reporters who had been casually adjusting their cameras jerked upright. Assistants stopped mid-step. Even the lights above seemed to buzz louder, as if reacting to the shock radiating from every corner. But the person who reacted the strongest was ShenYue herself. Her expression didn't shift slowly. It shattered all at once. Her breath caught, her shoulders stiffened, and her eyes widened with the kind of stunned fear no one could fake. She wasn't expecting this. Not here. Not in front of everyone. Not from Dylan. She stood in place, gripping the sleeves of her jacket. She looked so small in that moment, swallowed by the intensity of the declaration exploding around her. No movement.
No blinek.
Just silence. MilesWei, on the other hand, reacted like someone had pushed a blade through his entire chest. He didn't roar. He didn't throw anything. He didn't rush forward. His reaction was worse than rage because it was quiet, sharp, and uncontrollably real. His jaw locked so tightly the tension was visible from across the room. His breathing changed. His eyes darkened with something close to devastation. He stared at Dylan with an expression that said one thing clearly. "You had no right." And then something even more unexpected happened. ShenYue staggered. Not dramatically. Not for effect. Her knees buckled slightly, as if the air around her had turned too heavy to support her. She reached behind her and grabbed the back of a chair to keep herself from falling. Her world was spinning. Her pulse was loud in her ears. She looked like she might collapse right there on the spot. The cameras caught everything. People began whispering. The sound grew like a wave in the background. But the tension forming between the three of them was louder than any of it. Dylan took a step toward her. Confident. Determined. Completely unshaken by the chaos his words had unleashed. He stretched out a hand like he expected her to reach back. His voice dropped, lower and more possessive. "I said what needed to be said. I am done pretending. His tone wasn't angry. It was final. It carried the weight of someone who had been holding this inside for far too long and no longer cared about consequences. But ShenYue didn't lift her hand. She didn't move toward him. She didn't even look at him. She looked at Miles. That was what ripped everything apart. Her eyes, glassy and overwhelmed, darted straight to him like he was the only thing grounding her. And Miles, who had been trying so hard to keep himself composed, visibly broke the moment her gaze met his. He stepped forward. Dylan stepped closer too. The room tensed. Security suddenly drifted toward the edge of the scene, sensing exactly where this was heading. Assistants took slow steps backward. Someone whispered, "They're going to fight again."
God, stop them.
Miles spoke first, his voice low but trembling. Do not drag her into this. Do not use her to make a point. Dylan didn't flinch. He didn't back down. His eyes stayed on ShenYue, and when he finally spoke again, his voice sent a tremor through the entire room. She deserves to know what I feel. She deserves someone willing to say it out loud. Miles shot back instantly. You do not get to decide what she deserves. Their words weren't loud, but each one carried enough strain to feel like the air itself was cracking under the pressure. ShenYue suddenly pushed herself off the chair. Stop. Please stop. Her voice wasn't strong. It shook. It cut right through both of them. She was breathing quickly now, gripping the edge of the table beside her as if the stress had drained every bit of strength she had left. Stop fighting because of me. I cannot take this anymore. Her trembling confession silenced the entire space. Dylan froze. Miles froze. ShenYue turned away, pressing a hand against her forehead, fighting to steady herself. Her legs wobbled again. She didn't want to cry, but the pressure, the attention, the sudden declaration, Miles' reaction, the reporters, all of it collided at once. Her voice cracked. I cannot stand between you. I cannot breathe when you two look at me like this. Miles reacted first. He stepped forward, reaching out to steady her before she fell. His hands hovered near her arms, unsure if she would accept the help, but unable to stand back and watch her collapse.
ShenYue.
Look at me.
Please.
She didn't look up. Dylan's voice cut in, softer now but intense. Tell me you do not feel anything. That is all I need to hear. Say that I am wrong, and I will walk away right now. ShenYue's breath hitched in her throat. Her fingers curled into fists. Her entire face tightened. She didn't answer. She couldn't. And that silence was enough to ignite the last spark between the two men. Miles stepped in front of her, blocking Dylan's line of sight entirely. Do not do this to her. Not like this. You are pushing her past her limit. Dylan took one step forward. If she would just say the truth, none of this would hurt her. Miles shot back. The truth is killing her. They were inches away from each other now, their jaws tight, their chests rising and falling with suppressed anger. The tension was no longer just emotional. It felt dangerous.